Welcome to Live Review, where I review a game over the time I've played it. I'll review the first hour and then continue on until I feel I've gathered enough information about the game to drop a final review. This will be unscripted, off the top of my head analysis, and I'm doing this so I can play mini games without having to stop to write reviews and do voice work, etc, etc. I can just do it on the spot and continue moving and do some light editing. Alright, so I just let the first hour pass by, and what little I got to play of it was somewhat fun. Incredibly different from Valkyria Chronicles. So far, it's more action-oriented. There's a cover system. There's no real time at all. It's just completely move forward. You can actually attack, roll out of the way, block. It's completely different from the last game, and it actually takes some getting used to because the controls are quite stiff. It's not completely hack and slash. And there's some orders you can give to your companions. You can pause time and select magical abilities. It's interesting, but you don't really get to play too much of it in the first hour and 15 minutes. Probably longer than that because I haven't gotten that far. But this is the first hour of the game I played, and I think I played for at least 8 minutes before the game decided to take over with a bunch of cutscenes. But it's typical of an anime game or story-driven games such as this to do that. So we'll see in 5 hours what happens. But so far I want to talk about the graphics. So far I'm not a big fan of the grain they put on the screen. This kind of ugly little checker crap that they put on the screen to kind of cover up the visuals of the title. I don't know why they did that. I don't like it. It's kind of like a water paint filter or something like that. And I'm not particularly interested in that at all. I don't know why they did it. Cutscenes are good, but there are some really stiff moments where the character's just standing there, no real reactions. It's almost like a cheaply animated, cheap anime, where they just stand there and there's lots of mouth moving and lots of talking, but there's no real emotion or gusto to anything that they do. But that's also another thing to be expected. I don't know if it's to be expected of a game like this because Valkyria Chronicles was fantastic. It has all kinds of emotion and beauty to it. But like I said, this is the first hour, so we'll see in 5 hours what I think of the game, and I can give you a little bit of more nuanced review of it. Alright, so I've reached the 8-hour mark. I would say 9 hours. And I want to just talk about the combat and ultimately what it lacks. Personally, it's very dull. It wants to be Dynasty Warriors so badly, but it also wants to be Valkyria Chronicles, but not in the way that Valkyria Chronicles was Valkyria Chronicles. Instead, what we get is this mashup of a game where you run around and you attack, but you're not really attacking. Instead, you hit a button and you watch the animation unfold, or you can give orders to your teammates, and then they may follow them or they may not, because sometimes they just stand there and do nothing. You can drop area effects on people, and it's just this unnecessary need to have a tactical symbiosis to the original that I think that the game should have just went full on Dynasty Warriors combat, because it would have been much better. What we get instead is this mishmash of strategy and combat that is not fun. It's really dull. I don't know. It just doesn't do much for me at all. You'd be better off just playing a Dynasty Warriors for combat. This game also has a leveling system on the side that it doesn't really explain too much. You can upgrade your weapons and all that, but there's also a way to buy coats and then apply cloths and materials to it, but it doesn't really explain any of it. And then they have this kind of Final Fantasy talent system that's just sitting there, and it's okay, now you got to invest in this with Ragnite that you pick up from killing enemies during skirmishes or the main story missions. You don't really visually see the changes in gameplay, because it'll say something like attack +1 and attack +2, and there's not a big wide open talent tree. It's for each character. It's just this very small little window, and then you choose something and you're is it negligible? Is it actually making an impact? It's a lot of stuff to kind of go through, especially changing the battle palette, which is your skills. So you got to make sure to keep up with the highest ranks of each of the Ragnite for each character that you want to use. And it's complicated for no reason, because the game is not that difficult. It is not that structured to the point where you need all these tactical changes. You don't need all these stats and extra crap. It's not that deep. So what I suggest, because the story is actually interesting, while not amazing because it's nowhere near Valkyria Chronicles. Valkyria Chronicles made you feel for the characters. They had this emotional draw to it. This game does not really have that. It's more anime show. It wants to be an anime show so badly, but it's a video game. Let's just say you'll play the game for about 20 minutes and then you'll watch cutscenes for almost an hour after combat. And then there's so much backstory in the notebooks and in the glossary that you can just look at these different cutscenes. It clearly wants to be a show or a book of a show. And it doesn't really want to be a video game because the combat is not good. The combat is not good. It's dull, bland. And I really wish they would have just focused on either real-time strategy or going hardcore combat. But going in between did not work for this game. So I can't recommend Valkyria Revolution straight out the box. If you can get it on sale, or you can just watch people on Twitch play it. I can't recommend it straight out of the box. If you really gotta play a real Valkyria Chronicle game, go for it. I will say this though, the English dub is really good. It's not amazing. It's no Yakuza levels of emotion, but they got a pretty good cast. I know that my man Johnny Young Bosch is in it, so that's pretty good. Japanese, of course, the dub is great. There's nothing that I can say against the dubs of Japanese. It's always good. Visually, I would say it was pretty poor. I don't like the necks. Like the necks in this game are just like really thin, and they don't connect to the heads properly. And the faces aren't that good at all. I would say that they look like most of the characters are sleepy, and the people that's supposed to be really beautiful are just kind of dough-faced, and like their faces are really sharp at the edge of their jaws. It's not, even like the main characters don't shine in any way, shape, or form. They just look like lifeless Muppets. So if you really need to play a Valkyria game, somehow you've become a fan of Valkyria Chronicles and you wanted the next game, this is not it. I don't suggest it. Stay away from it unless you just gotta have an anime game in the myriad of very many anime games out there. This is probably not the best one to play, but it does have an okay story. It's probably like C-grade anime show. So that's Kevin Jones from Geek Citadel, and I'll see you guys later. And this has been the live review. Let me know if you want more live reviews, and peace.